You've seen them, a whole lot of them.
For those of you that are new here, horsepower industrial sawstop.
This is the sawstop 35-inch, 3 horsepower
table saw. And while we're down here,
So we both had the same table saws before we joined together.
High spots kind of planed and sanded down. Now I can start the actual process of squaring it up.
I started this project by breaking down the sheets of Pure Bond
plywood. My lows didn't have full sheets.
In the center of the shop along the right-hand wall is where I keep my 3 horsepower table saw, Darth Blader.
And if you're like me, you're also jealous of them. Everybody, and I do mean everybody, seems like they have a sawstop on YouTube. Now I won't deny it's a great saw. I've used them in my professional life, but like most of you, I can't justify or afford one for my own shop. Yet. Although you can dream about new tools and be limited by your budget, you can make what seems like a paperweight work for you. One of the most critical decisions you can make when building your shop is deciding what to buy next in order to have a more well-rounded workspace. Do you already have a jigsaw, a jointer, a table saw, or whatever you need? And if you do, can you use those tools effectively to build what you want? I was lucky enough to get a new Makita jigsaw this year, but I have a bookshelf that I need to make out of this pile of walnut here. And if I can't get this table saw working, I may have to trade in my shiny new Makita jigsaw in order to buy a new table saw. Although it still wouldn't be a sawstop. To further elaborate on why this is a choice, I do still have a nice Black & Decker jigsaw from circa 1985. It still works. The table saw I do have was inherited from my grandfather around 2005. It was from most definitely 2 decades before that. It was found in a barn, covered in dust.
Dust? Really? Really?
But when my family said I could have it, I said thank you, because it was free. It definitely works, but it needs some love. And when I say rework, I'm going to strip this rotted plywood base that's been on the bottom of it forever. Typically I have to clamp it to my work table in order to use it. So now I can put it on a cart and put it out of the way whenever I'm all done with it. It takes up valuable real estate, and I don't really have a way to off-feed onto a table or anything, so longer pieces of wood are a bad idea. In doing all this and putting on a cart, I can actually use my workbench as an off-feed table as well, so it'll double whammy, win-win for everybody. This turned out to be the most difficult part of it, but I'll also be squaring up the blade to the actual bed as well. There's a lot of adjustments, screws, and all kinds of craziness that's linked together. It turned out to be a really major problem. I have used it to cut many woodworking projects before, including hardwoods. I wouldn't call it precision by any means, but I have been able to get some decent work out of it over the years. For the cart, it'll be nothing special. I've saved some 2x4s, as you can see back here, and some 4x4s I bought that I've been saving for revamping the shop. I'm going to use those for legs. Otherwise, I'm really just improvising the cart as we go, and I'm sizing it to the table saw itself. The only constraints that I'll have for it is that it can only be a 1/4 inch or less taller than my workbench, so that it can use it as an off-feed table, and not any wider than the bench as well, because I'll be clamping the cart to the front of it to secure it so I don't have any safety issues while using the saw. Other than that, I'll just have 4 casters on the bottom. 2 of them will be locking swivels so I can kind of keep it in place, and they also enable me to wheel it out of the way whenever I don't want to look at it anymore. I've watched the YouTube channel Shop Nation for a little over a year now. And recently in one of his videos, he was making the argument for making your shop furniture nicer to begin with so that you felt inspired to be in your workspace. It felt like the place you wanted to go, a place you could go create, have it exactly the way you want it right away. While I do agree with the sentiment, not all of us have a whole lot of time to spend on furniture like this. A lot of us have full-time jobs, kids, and a to-do list longer than we can even remember. Sometimes functional is good enough, and you can always come back to improve it later. I work as a manufacturing engineer for my daily job, and although it is a cheesy saying, it's one that I keep coming back to over the years. It says, don't let best get in the way of better. I think that's a profound statement to a certain degree. It really admittedly sounds cheesy. If you're always aspiring to do the most perfect thing ever, then you'll never get anything done because you'll get locked down doing this forever and you'll never make any progress. So for me, getting something functional is the way to go, but not forgetting to build upon that later as you go is also a critical element of it. This saying is used as an excuse in the corporate manufacturing world to keep you from striving for the perfect solution because it also costs more time and costs more money. Typically it results in a band-aid condition, although it has a good intention. But if you apply it correctly in your shop because you care about this place, because you care about building everything you have, you will most definitely want to come back and fix this little cart that you've done that you didn't spend a lot of time on. You can always come back and make it better when you figured out the irritations that you have, when you figured out the functional issues that you have. Because if you spend all this time up front when you don't necessarily even know how you want to build it or how you want to use it or where you want to use it. I like Adam Savage a lot. He's an inspiration to me. People who watch my channel aren't necessarily surprised at this. If you've watched my other videos, if you haven't, go watch them. I originally wanted to be a special effects person back before CGI kind of took over. It was during that transition period. I never really got to do that, but he still remained one of the people I really enjoy because he's followed a creative life, but he also follows a practical life. He's also very practical in the way he sets up his shop. He recently did a shop reveal where he organized everything, but he made a really good statement. A shop is nothing but a process. It is not a completed item, it is a thing in motion. I really thought that was a great saying to reflect upon what I'm trying to say about this. This is in no way how I want my shop to be forever. It works now, but I'm sure I'll come up with something better that'll make it flow for me later. Or I'll have different intentions for how it's used, or I'll be working on different kinds of projects. Change happens for sure. The fact is, something is better than nothing. If you only have time to do something to make it functional, then do that. Get it done, make it work, and get your projects done. I myself struggle with the perfectionist tendency, so it can be crippling at times. Instead of shop greatness, I'm going to go with shop mediocrity, so you can get something functional and just simply get the job done for now. To Travis's points on Shop Nation, I will look at this as a first draft to be revised as we go to build my dream shop in the future. This will eventually be enclosed to house table saw accessories. I am also 3D printing a connector for dust collection, which I'm in first draft phase right now as well. I have to admit that in my ideal shop, I wouldn't have a saw like this. I would probably have a cabinet table saw of some kind. And with that thought, hopefully this setup is temporary. But in the meanwhile, I can use it to make beautiful things, or hopefully beautiful things. I don't know. With the saw now capable of only an 11/1000th variance from front to back, I now feel comfortable moving forward and cutting this walnut. Stay tuned for a bookshelf.